and the Union Bears stopped singing. The Union Bears stopped singing, and it was pretty dramatic, and I never even noticed. I never noticed at the time. We're all so numb, just in a different world, really, almost kind of removing yourself spiritually from the stadium and just looking down from above on what was happening again. So bored as well. The game itself was just so torpid. It took me a while to realise. So it must have been 70, 71 minute mark when St Mirren got their second goal. I'm assuming that's when the Union Bears stopped singing. And someday, maybe 80 minutes, 85 minutes, as we're just discussing, who you wanted to get in as the new manager, what we're going to do now, because Clement, that was it, it was all over. Somebody says to me, the Union Bears have stopped singing. The Bears have stopped. I thought, oh, Christ, so they have. And it's like somebody telling you there's been no bird song today, and you suddenly go, it's one of those things that, I did know on a subconscious level, I did notice it, but only now you're putting it at the front of my brain. I'm like, God, that's actually stunning. That's what's happened. And when the Union Bears stopped singing, it's time to go. It was time to go. I've told you before, I'm main stand front, 18-yard line at the Copeland Road stand. So it's this season I've noticed more about the Union Bears because they're closer to me. And there's been so many games where there's been nothing else to pay attention to this season. So many boring games since we moved back to Ibrox. Not so much in 2025, but for the best part of the season. And we didn't get back to Ibrox until September, and that was, the Union Bears were finally, their dream had come true. They were front and centre of the front of the Copeland, right behind the goals. That's where they wanted to be, and it's changed over the years. In my era, the choir was in the east enclosure. My era of being young, I still do the bouncy, just walking from the couch to the fridge, but that's the morbid obesity. If I was to try and jump up and do it as part of the Rangers choir these days, well, I'd be in hospital after about 20 seconds, and there'd be a few other people probably needing hospitalised as well. The ones that were standing round about me, it wouldn't be a pretty sight. But in my day, it was East Enclosure doing the trampoline in there, and it was great fun. And I'd also that was maybe kind of late teens into early 20s, whereas when I first started going, maybe having a couple of games going with my pals and that early to kind of mid 80s, the Copeland Road, the back of the Copeland, before Soonest arrived, before Ibrox went all season ticket, you could go up there and still, the Copeland was still a bit of a choir for the younger guys because it was taken over from the old Rangers end when it was all terrace, and there was the big kind of cover on the old Rangers end at Ibrox, and dark things could go up the back of that, could go on up the back of that. Before that, I think before my day, the first Rangers game I went to, I was 7 years old, I was in the centenary stand, just sitting in the benches of what is now the Govan, now the Sandy Jardin, but before that it had been terrace, and it had been like a kind of our version of what was still Celtic's jungle, updating the stadium much quicker than our friends across the city. But I think that was called the Ibrox Derry. I think they called it the Ibrox Derry, and that's one of the things I hear now is the Union Bears singing the sash, and they chuck in Londonderry. It was worn at Londonderry. Oh, grim in the scale. That's one of the things that always kind of puzzled me a bit as well. If we're so staunch that we have to say Londonderry, why is Derry in the sash? Why is the Derry version used in the sash? Because it comes from a time when we didn't even have to worry about anybody else taking the word London out. We could just use it as a nickname. But it's a Dundee Derry at Dens, isn't it? Of course, Dundee are the Protestant team from Dundee, if that's as much as a thing as it used to be. But that was the singing section over what is now the Govan, and then we had moving to the corner. The Union Bears and the Blue Order first appeared in the Broomlin, then into the corner between the Govan and the Broomlin. When there was the away support, when Celtic were still bringing 7,000-8,000, they were getting the whole of the Broomlin. It would go into that wee corner there, and then the Union Bears eventually move over into what used to be the away section. It was right at the front of the Broomlin, right next to the gap between the Broomlin stand and the main stand, and that's in that wee front section of the Broomlin in there. I remember my pal, me, Alan, it was a week before we beat Celtic 5-1 at Ibrox. So what was that, 88, August 88, so I'd be like 19. Alan, maybe 20, and I swear we had a better day that day than we did a week later over in the East Enclosure. It was a great day, Mark Walters, Butch Wilkins, Kevin Drinko, and that scoring the goals, beating Celtic 5-1. It was a great day, but a week before we drew 0-0 with Hibs at Ibrox, and they just got new directors, new owners had come in, and they came out onto the park. Like Steve Archibald was playing for them and that, and the Hibs supporters were right in that section that the Union Bears were in for the last few years. So we were standing in the West enclosure that day, which wasn't just as busy. And we'd had a great day in the town before it. We're kind of half pissed, the two of us, pleasantly pissed, and we're just abusing these Hibs directors back and forth with the Hibs fans. Drew 0-0, but actually had a better day than we did. Totally sober, just watching Rangers being the kind of intoxicant a couple of weeks later, or a week later, when we beat Celtic 5-1. But aye, that section there, the Union Bears were in there, and then this season they've come to their dream home, front and centre of the Copeland. But of course, everything being the way it is at Rangers, the way it has been since 2012, it wasn't that straightforward. They had to wait a couple of months because it is a factor. We weren't at Ibrox. We didn't have our own stadium when this season started. We had to move to Hampden. So eventually the Union Bears get in there. And there's been a few games this season, particularly in the earlier half of the season. We've been quite good in a lot of games in 2025 at Ibrox. Really bad in the last two. But I've had more time to listen to the Union Bears, and they've been closer as well. And I've noticed the thing with the capos. I knew there was somebody in there with a loud hailer. I knew there was a thing going on with the megaphone. I thought it might just have been the capo boy. He's just shouting to folk up the back. Right, somebody going to get me I'll take a Scotch pie, and a bovril. Just put a bit of salt in it. Just so it could be heard above the kind of hubbub. But it's actually coaching. I've realised as I'm closer to it now, I can hear it. I can hear more what's going on. He's actually coaching these young guys. I think it's more about organising it rather than having to, right, come on, we're singing this song now, let's make sure you're up for it, because they seem naturally up for it. One day we played Hibs in a youth cup game at Ibrox, and it was free on the season ticket or something. It was on a Saturday afternoon. Anyway, I just nipped along, and there's a lot of folk my age. I think they only opened the main stand. It might only have opened the... we're standing... Was it... Was it before? No, it was Ibrox. It wasn't that long ago. It was seated. The enclosure was totally seated. But as in the East enclosure, that was only a bit. I think they opened that in the main stand, and all the Union Bears come in to the to the East enclosure. So there was all guys like me standing about. As all these, they seemed like 8, 9, 10-year-olds. These boys, and it was unrelenting. The enthusiasm was totally infectious, and it was totally hilarious because they're especially doing that thing of. I don't know what the tune was, but they take a shoe off. They all take a shoe off and they're waving their shoe in the air and stuff like that. Like, what the hell's going on here? It was hilarious. So there's no doubt they don't need anybody to G them up. The capos there to kind of tell them what song they're singing and right, come on, we're going to let's give it loudy. The team are lagging. We need to hear the instructions going out. And I thought it'd be quite good. We should all get a shot at that actually. Maybe I should get in there and start. Because we're a famously. I mean, we're now going to be the Castro Street loyal, the Harvey Milk loyal. No, we're going pure San Francisco now as well. We're the Rainbow Laces, and I know we reported that Ross County player for a bit of homophobia during the 55 season, homophobic remarks and all that. I thought it'd be quite good just to get in there and just in the front, and I would have a go at it. I can imagine myself with a megaphone right down in front. Right, boys, protests. We are Protestants. Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way. Hey, no, nothing, no. Okay, you leave in the morning with everything you own in a little black case, alone on a platform, the wind and the rain, and a sad and lonely. Come on, let's have it, Teddy Bear. San Francisco, Harvey Milk. No takers, and that's what it sounded like yesterday. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like my dream had come true. I was trying to get him to sing these songs, and they're like, no, that's just total no response. It's quite a scary thing when the Union Bears stop singing, because it's a continual song they sing. And it reminded me of when Jack Brel, that amazing performance. Just look up Jack Brel, Amsterdam, and there'll be one, he's live, he's on the stage and some theatre somewhere. It's black and white, and he's sweating profusely, and not a pretty man, Jack Brel, but one of the coolest dudes out there. And he's Belgian, isn't he? He's Belgian, Jack Brel, and he's belting out Amsterdam. Dans le port, Amsterdam, dans le port. Jack Brel, oh, ne me quitte pas, his famous song, probably his most famous song, ne me quitte pas. It's a slow one. It's excuse me, it's one of those. It's almost a cliche. Nimikiti Pa, and it featured in there's a Radio 4 series. Is it soul music? And they take a track and an emotive track that's known, but a song that the whole world knows. I don't know. It's, I can't like My Way, for example, and they interview various people, some famous, some not so famous, and they tell what that song means to them. That song and Nemekite Pa, I think it's Alistair Campbell. I think was talking about being in a truck when he was a young boy, driving, just hitchhiking his way through Europe, having his year off, as a student, or he just graduated or whatever, and he's going all across Europe. He's hitchhiking, and he was going from France into Belgium, and he got a lift off this big, scary Belgian truck driver guy who was suddenly listening to the radio, and he was crying. He's like, what's, and he's broken French or Flemish or whatever. He's saying to this guy, what's the problem? And he's like, that guy's dead. It was Jack Brel. They just announced that Jack Brel had died, and they played Nimikita Pa. And then there's a Scottish guy, a properly Scottish guy. Obviously Alistair Campbell claims Scottishness and what have you, but a properly Scottish guy with a proper Glasgow accent is speaking, and I'm thinking, I don't like the way this is going. I'm getting a bad feeling here. And he's like, yeah, it means a lot to me. And no, I heard the song, and there was this montage on Sports Scene, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And it was my favourite Celtic player at the time, Paul McStay. He was he, he was the only good player that Celtic had at that point in time. It was a terrible time for the club, and he was leaving. He was leaving, and there was a montage. I don't know if it was Sports Scene, but there was a montage of his clips of his famous goals for Celtic and bits of his brilliant play, and they were playing the music they were playing to it was Nimikiti Pa, and I was crying my eyes out, and I thought I have to learn more about that. Fair enough, but it made it a bit. I was wanting to enjoy the Jack Brel thing. Like, Bar Brel is my favourite bar in the world, and but for me I thought that's fine because it's slightly mawkish, that goes along with the whole Celtic thing, whereas Amsterdam, Amsterdam, the port, I'm done the port, Amsterdam. And he's belting this out, and it's a phenomenal song. And the other thing, Jack Brel, is he's Belgian, and they've got a big. Rotterdam's a bigger port than Amsterdam. Rotterdam's a bigger port than Antwerp, but Antwerp, the port, is big. Anyway, he's Port Amsterdam, and it's supposed to be, I think maybe 4 times he's expected to sing it. When he ends the song, it's a really intense song, and it's the accordion is going something fierce. On the Port Amsterdam, down the Port Amsterdam, and he just stops and he walks away from the mic, and like the spotlight goes down, and he walks away from away from the spotlight to go into the dark, and he just leaves it hanging, and the accordion keeps playing. And the whole of the orchestra keeps playing, but it's like and the crowd goes crazy. It's amazing. He's just cutting it off completely. It's so dramatic, and it's so much more effective than just continuing the song as it's everybody's expecting it to do. And the Union Bears did the same yesterday, and it was very dramatic, and it has had the desired effect. How you doing, folks? Sorry, this is your Fat Egg. Rangers, at their third attempt, have in the last 4 years haven't managed to get beyond the 12-month mark with a manager, have failed again to have that same manager for an entire season. Reaction Pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet tonight. Gersnet just starting at 9:30, just starting in 40 minutes or so as I'm recording this. It'll be on at 9:30 tonight. Gersnet on your YouTube channel. It'll be there even if you don't manage to get onto it live. It'll remain there, unlike Philippe Clement. Get onto that. It's going to be my mucker Scott Bradley. He's hosting, and it's Ben and Ross that'll be having to deal with this massive news, although not in any way unexpected, that Philippe Clement has been sacked as manager of Rangers. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm sponsored by the Port of Antwerp. And I've never found out if Philippe Clement. It's just terrible. Somebody out there will know, and it'll be discussed on some of these paid-for podcasts that I don't particularly read or watch. Sorry. It's newspapers that I don't read. If Philippe Clement is French or Dutch speaking, is he naturally a French speaker or Dutch speaker? I know he comes from Antwerp, and Antwerp's a Flemish. It's a Flemish city. It's in Flanders, in Belgium, but I don't know. could he be like ethnically a Walloon or whatever like that? Because Philippe Clement, that's French. That's French. Now, Jack Brel was from a Flemish family that had started speaking French, just the generation before him or whatever like that. So I know it's all mixed up. There is actually some. I've been to a Rangers pub and been to an engagement party at a Rangers pub in Coatbridge. These things don't always work out the same. No, it's like the ethnic Serbs you still go to in Bosnia and stuff like that. It's not all clear cut, but I've sort of wondered because Philip Clement certainly sounds like he's got that kind of Dutch under that kind of roughness to his accent, but then I'd imagine all French speakers in Belgium would be the same because they're probably having to speak to Dutch speakers a lot as well. So it will be. I've never actually confirmed what one he is, but I'm sponsored by the Port of Amsterdam, famous for the diamonds, famous for being, I think, second in size only to the Port of Rotterdam and Antwerp. They've got Germinal Beer Shop, which don't sound very French. That's where Philippe Clement started his playing career, where he ended his playing career, and Philippe Clement is no longer manager of Rangers. My name's Alec Anderson. Every Saturday we follow, we cheer the boys in blue, the most successful team in football. We're Scotland's gallant few, though times they have been hard, we've followed near and far. And you'll always. He had to go. He had to go. Dans le port Amsterdam, quel dramatique, quel dramatique. The accordion still playing. L'accordionista. L'accordionista is a song, a famous Edith Piaf song. Properly French Edith Piaf. And no, non, je ne regrette rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. I have no regrets whatsoever. I've no regrets sticking up for Philip Clement up until Friday night, even. Until Friday night in the Jersnet preview pods. I think the one thing I can say about Michael Beale, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, now Philip Clement is I don't think either any of those sackings have been a moment too soon or a moment too late. I think all of them have just got to a point where you can clearly see that's it. It's just going to get toxic now. It's done. It's by with. And even on Friday night, I wasn't at that point yet with Philippe Clement. But yesterday, it more than got to that point. Quickly cheer ourselves up if we're going to get a new manager in. And we're not. It's going to be a caretaker manager to the end of the season. But we should probably get a new permanent manager in for Celtic at Parkhead when we play Celtic at Parkhead next month, because Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's first game in charge was a 2-0 win at home against Sparta Prague. Michael Beale's first game in charge of Rangers as Rangers manager was a 3-0 win over Bayer Leverkusen. Philippe Clement's first game in charge in October 2023 was a 4-0 win over Hibs. So the next guy, his first game in charge is going to be a 5-0 win. Just get him in for Celtic. Even got to sack him by the end of the season. Get him in for Celtic at Parkhead. 16 months, Philippe Clement has lasted from, I think, what was it, 15th of October 2023 to the 23rd of February 2025. A bit ropey, a bit nasty Rangers columns. The Pope's on his way out, and we're going in there with trying to supersede that. It's a bit sectarian. We're going in there with the, I don't know, would it be the green smoke we put out when a manager gets sacked, and blue smoke when we get the new one in. But Philippe Clement is no longer a dead man walking. He is, as far as we're concerned, executed. We got him into he's walked the blue mile. He is in the old electric chair, and he's gone. It's done. And every single thing I was hanging on to with Philippe Clement evaporated pretty quickly in the last month or so. I like to kind of waste time and crack kind of light-hearted when I'm doing a post-match reaction pods after a horrendous Rangers defeat yesterday, because you try to get rid of the Celtic ambulance chasers. I'm not really, no offence guys, I appreciate a lot of folk who support other teams come on for a bit of ambulance chasing in these pods, and then they enjoy it and what have you. But it's more a case of, I'm going to be there. There's a lot of people dying to walk out on Rangers, dying to walk away. I'm no renewing my season. It's the worst football I've seen in my entire life, and blah blah blah. And it wasn't. It was nothing like that until yesterday. yesterday was one of the worst games, one of the worst Rangers performances. You couldn't even give it the name performance that I've ever seen. You think, yeah, that's it's done, it's over. But I don't like to indulge in that because I know I'm going to be that kind of I'm out of here, throwing the scarf away. I did that once when I was a kid, and I got it back. It's quite amazing. It taught me a lesson. But you're going to be here for life. I'm going to have plenty of time to absorb this pain, to absorb the anger concomitant with yesterday's result and performance. So I'm not going to be walking away. We're going to have forever to deal with it. What's the point of losing my shit just now? And you might just say or do something that you regret. But every now and then, I feel as if I maybe shortchanged. Like, for example, the Queen's Park result. I didn't bother hanging about thinking about Celtic fans in that post-match reaction pod. It was just like, this is awful. This is a sacking offence, and it's 2 weeks later that Philippe Clement has been sacked. But I feel as if maybe even before the news came out today, I feel as if I should do a pod today, more a kind of post Philippe Clement's post-match press conference reaction pod, because I saw it in his eyes. I saw it was on Rangers TV. They issued the press conference on the YouTube channel, and you could hear the questions, but more to the point, you could see it in Philippe Clement's face. I saw it on Sports Scene, his reaction. On Sports Scene, the wee interview he did post-match there. Rangers TV, they get him in a little corner and they interview him. The man's gone. He's totally gone. He was broken. And I started feeling a bit sorry for him on Friday. He was getting torn to pieces and getting zero respect in Friday's press conference, pre-match press conference. And yesterday, I don't mean he had no respect for himself, but he just thought that you could see he just wanted this done. He was invoking the board. That's a decision for the board. There was none of that kind of coming out fighting. I thought, I was busily trying to imagine at full time yesterday ways in which Philippe Clement could still stay, because I'm so desperate to keep a manager to the end of a season, for a whole season. At least he managed the whole calendar year 2024. And a funny thing happened on the way to slagging Philippe Clement. When I was doing that post-match reaction pod yesterday, I'm got the old the Complete Rangers here, and the co-author of the Complete Rangers, Mr. Robert McElroy, he walked past me. He walked by and he had a look. Who's that weirdo up in the corner there talking to himself on his phone? I've met him before. I met him a couple of times, Robert. A real privilege, the Rangers historian. I met him probably 20 odd years ago, a few times. And I doubt if he'd remember me, but if he did see me and recognise it, if he happens to be watching this, I'm sorry, Robert. I was just in the middle of recording the old post-match reaction. I had to keep going, or else I was going to just start crying. So I'm sorry about that, and I'm going to refer to your work again here, sir, because I feel as if it was quite a thing that I saw him yesterday walking past me. Because it was a historic moment. He's a man who's written the histories of various Rangers managers in this kind of compendium of Rangers factoids, Rangers facts, Rangers history that I refer to constantly. It's an invaluable resource. And I know we did back. I've done a bit of work myself in the 71-72 season, and I knew we'd finish third. But I tend to forget it was 16 points behind Celtic. I mean, this is the days of 2 points for a win. In 71-72 season, we finished 16 points behind Celtic in the league. We finished 6 points behind Aberdeen. We finished in third place, basically beating Hibs on goal difference into third place, but Hibs went into fourth. But Hibs beat us in the Scottish Cup semi-final after a replay. A Scottish Cup final, they lost 6-1 or 6-2 to Hibs. It's to Celtic. Celtic destroyed Hibs in the Scottish Cup final, but Hibs beat us in the semi-final after a replay as well. Unusual in those days for Rangers to lose a replay. We were out of the League Cup before the quarter-final stage. The old League Cup sectionals, we were in the same section as Celtic. Parkhead was getting done up. How appropriate, considering what's happening at Ibrox this season. Parkhead was getting done up, so Celtic played both of their league. They played their home game against us in the League Cup at Ibrox. Then they had to play us at Ibrox as their away game, and then we had them at Ibrox in the league in the middle of September. So by mid-September, we had lost 3 times to Celtic. This is the season Rangers won their only European trophy. By mid-September, we had lost 3 times to Celtic at Ibrox. That's absolutely unbelievable. So out the Scottish Cup at the semi-finals, out the League Cup before the quarter-final stage, and in the days of 2 points for a win. We were 16 points off the top. So domestically, we were far worse. Far, far worse then. So it went along with this delusion I had for myself that we could win the Europa League under Philippe Clement. And it's not a delusion because the CEO was talking about it on Wednesday, basically, just a few days ago. Oh, Philippe Clement, he deserves it for what he's done with us in Europe. He deserves to see out the Europa League campaign, and he does. And I was busily thinking, that's the most abject performance I've seen from Rangers in I don't know how long at Ibrox. Well, just god awful yesterday. It was a resignation type performance. But I was thinking again, am I getting carried away with myself? We've got the European thing. So I knew we'd had a pretty poor end in the league to the 71-72 season, and the crowds were low. So I'm checking it again here in Robert McElroy and Rob Ferrier's book. In March, February of the 71-72 season, we lost 2-0 away at Motherwell. In March, we lost 2-1 at home to Morton in front of 20,000 people. April, we drew 1-1 with Clyde at Shawfield. We lost at Dens Park. We won away at Airdrie. We lost 4-3 at home to Dunfermline in April 1972. And I think that might have been the game that Jim Leishman scored a hat-trick against us. It was 5,000 people at Ibrox. 5,000 was the crowd that day. At a time when Ibrox could hold 70-odd thousand. And the 29th of April, we lost 2-1 at home to Hibs in front of 11,000. And the last game we played in domestic football, the last competitive match we played before the Cup Winners' Cup final in the Nou Camp against Dynamo Kiev, was the last league game of the season at home to Ayr United, May the 1st, 1972. We beat Ayr United 4-2. 4,000 people. There was 4,000 people at Ibrox for that game. So I thought, well, things have been much more abysmal at Rangers, and we've still come out and won a European trophy in the same season. Maybe that's a reason not to sack Clement. And then I saw him in the press conference, and he'd already left. He'd already left by that point in time. His spirit had totally gone. And it's been happening like that. Every record I hold, everything I hold on to in favour of Clement, everything that's going in his favour, it just keeps evaporating. We've got we're not playing very well away from home. We're getting bad results consistently all season away from home in the league. But look at what he's done in Europe. Obviously, that's phenomenal. The top 8 finish. But look at domestically, we've only dropped 2 points to Dundee United. That was the thing. We've beaten everybody. Be our home, Hampden or Ibrox. We've beaten everybody. By a draw with Dundee United at the end of November, and then we go to the Scottish Cup, woeful style, to Queen's Park, their worst defeat basically in the Scottish Cup in 150 years. That's gutting, but even then I'm saying, well, he's still, league-wise, he's only dropped 2 points at home all season in the league, and then we have yesterday where St Mirren just beat us without even having to break a sweat, really. And it's not just I'm coming out and back him up, but it's also the CEO is coming out, and basically one of the first things he's asked when he comes into the job in the middle of December, Patrick Stewart, he's just appointed. He's getting asked about any plans to change the manager because things were already, Clement was already a bit under pressure. No, nothing like that. Then he's having to answer the same questions in early January, because our league away form is devastatingly bad. Then he's got to, on Wednesday just passed at the beginning of February, he's got till mid-February, he's got to answer the same questions again about the manager's position. And every time the CEO's backing him up in public, let myself try to back him up in public, it instantly lets us down again. It's just terrible results. All he's got left is European football. Scott Simon was sacked as Rangers manager while we're still in the Fairs Cup. I think we're just coming up to a game against Cologne, which got us through we won that and we got through to the quarter-final. Leeds, of all teams, put us at the quarter-finals that season, but Scott Simon was sacked while we're still in Europe. Dick Adver, I can't remember. The little general, we just beat PSG in penalties. Paris Saint-Germain, not quite the economic force they are now at that point in time, but we put them out of Europe, and in came Alec McLeish to take over from the little... Dick Advocat didn't get sacked. He got moved upstairs. He moved himself upstairs. However it happened, it was time for him to stop being Rangers manager. But we were still in European competition. We played Feyenoord, who won the UEFA Cup that season. They put us out narrowly over 2 legs. And Paul Le Guen qualified for the knockout stages from the UEFA Cup group stages. Just a new thing at that point in time. With a game to spare. We actually had a dead rubber game against Partizan Belgrade, Alan Hutton scoring the only goal of the game, because we'd already qualified. We were already through. And when Walter takes over, from Paul Le Guen in January that season. He hands over a team that's got a game coming up against, was it Hapoel Tel Aviv? Anyway, we gubbed them, and then we don't get put out until Osasuna. Osasuna beat us in the UEFA Cup for the second time in their history. So it's not an unusual thing for a Rangers manager to go out while Rangers are still in Europe, but it does feel weird. It does feel a bit weird in that sense. But I think it's got to the stage where Philippe Clement cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted with us in UEFA competition. Even during yesterday's kind of post-match reaction pod, I was still wondering if we could do a 71-72. We're probably changing manager next season anyway. So, as our CEO had said last Wednesday, we might as well retain Clement for a go at the latter kind of knockout stages of Europe. But there has to be a manager in situ who wants the job and who the players want in the job. Even for this pot shot at the Europa League, which is we're unlikely to win it. When I saw the post-match press conference, when I got home after I kind of stopping off for Morrison's in Annisland for 4 cans of, funnily enough, the Blue Moon, the Belgian wheat beer, 4 cans of Blue Moon, or Belgian style wheat beer, 2 bottles of Paulaner. I got a 6-pack of the Golden Wonder cheese and onion. I've got to be honest, I got myself a pack of 3 fries creams and one of the McGee's 4 packs with the tarts. You get the cherry bakewell, the pineapple cake, the strawberry tart thing, and that wee kind of fern cake thing. 4 of them, and I went for the multi pack of McCoy's, a 6-pack of McCoy's, but it was different flavours. It's been recommended by Multiple Man, ironically, a multi-pack, but it was. I thought I'm going to try something different. It's got 2 of the flame grilled steak, and that's fine. So your staples in there, 2 of them are safe. But it's also got, what's the 2 other flavours? It's the sizzling prawn and the Thai chicken curry flavour, I think. And but it was a change, wasn't it? It's a change. It was almost, I was deliberately, things needed changed up. No, it's the same but different. I'm always going to back the Rangers manager, but there's going to be a different Rangers manager. And the fact that I wasn't particularly enjoying the Thai chicken curry was a sign that it was maybe time for, the big baldy Belgian gaffer. He always hits us with the stats, and the kind of defence of his team. He's always got a focus on the project. He's looking long term. And that's what I was looking forward to hearing, or what I was thinking, please don't go heavy. There's no way you can construe the stats today, Philippe, to say that Rangers were the better team. I was really interested just to see what was going to happen. It was going to be a car crash press conference, but it was more funereal. It was more, it's over. I'm not going to say that he wasn't broken or anything like that, but he was absolutely a guy who didn't want to be there, a man who had no idea why Rangers were so utterly awful yesterday, or he knew exactly why we're so utterly awful, and he knew he wasn't going to be able to do anything about it. Instead, he was reminding me of Kenny McDowell. Kenny McDowell, another man who I once played in a key part in a muscular St Mirren win at Ibrox, which I also attended 30 odd years ago. He was reminding me of Kenny McDowell when he was in temporary charge of Rangers in that first season, ended that first season in the Championship, and he just clearly didn't want to be there at all. I never thought I would see that with Clement, and that for me was confirmation. It bears repeating. Say the evening Friday on the Jersnet preview with Brian, I didn't just believe Clement should get to the end of this season, but that perhaps he was the man to lead us under new US investment, from San Fran or wherever it's coming. He's been an ambassador, a CEO, a comms chief, everything this season. He's at the centre of a clear out and a downsizing and a scale not known at this club since 2012, I would say, to lead us to 3 straight domestic cup finals, which he has done, to have us top of the league at all, which he did last season. He had this whole thing where he got us to, he went to Parkhead at New Year unbeaten since he took over in October. We lost that game narrowly, and he straight away wins the next game, so it bounced back straight away. We come back after the break and we go eventually back top of the league. It's Celtic are slipping up and he responds to that. We do it points wise, but we can't do it in goal difference. We're still second, and then he goes ahead on points and goals. It was the win against St Johnstone at McDermott on the Sunday. That's us. We go top of the league, and he stays top of the league. And we beat, who did we beat? We beat Motherwell So we beat Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, a difficult midweek game, which we've got coming up this midweek, and we beat Hearts 5-0. Maybe the number one Clement domestic performance. I know we beat Celtic 3-0. I know we won a League Cup under them. We beat Celtic 3-0 just in January, but I think with Hearts at that point last season being the third force in Scotland and fancying their chances against us, and us going out there and pounding them 5-0 to say we're top of the league, we're going to stay top of the league, we can cope with the pressure, etc. And not only that, but 3 of the goals that day were scored by Cortez, Fabio Silva, and Diomande. These just the 3 winter signings, 3 of the winter transfer window signings by Clement, and it was like, this guy knows what he's doing. This it's all coming together. It's going to get even better. And the fact that we then were being deemed as having thrown away the league, I didn't really believe that. Obviously, that's what happened. We started slipping up really badly, having got ourselves back top of the league. But at the time we got top of the league, February, March last year, just a year ago, I remember saying that this man needs to get credit for having got us back to the top of the league. Not after the disaster of Michael Beale's start to the season and then losing at Parkhead. Getting us there, that's a major achievement in itself. He's just going to get slagged. I was predicting he's going to get slagged rotten. This will be forgotten if we don't win the league. We've got to get to a point where we can appreciate how bad things have been. But no, he got us top of the league, so that was it. The expectations were completely reset. Anything less than winning the league was total failure. I didn't really believe that. Like Connor Golson, for example, was clearly coming to the end of his time. It should have been coming to the end of his time at Rangers. His powers were waning. I think James Tavernier was taking a lot of abuse for stuff that was actually Connor Goldson's fault. I loved Connor Golson, a cracking player, still a lovely fella. But there's clearly a squad there that was needing to get seriously trimmed and was going to get trimmed in a way that the outgoings weren't matched in any way by the incomings. So I don't know. I couldn't really blame Philippe Clement for that. I thought he's been landed with a lot of context there. He's got us to 2 successive last 16s of the Europa League, which at this stage in our history, the way everything's going with the squad, the fact we didn't have a CEO for 6 months at the start of this season. Never mind, we didn't have our own stadium for the first 2 months. The academy thing, we're withdrawn from the Lowland League, so there's all sorts of carry on going on with the pathway for youth players into the first team. And he's been having to get involved in everything because we just haven't had the staff and the directors, the technical people behind the scenes to help him out. And I thought I can't really blame him for things going pretty badly. And to get to the 2 successive last 16s of the Europa League, I thought was quite the achievement. But the away league form after yet another clear out of wage earners kind of made sense that we're going to be slipping up away from home. In the year 2025, this is on Friday, this is on Friday before kick-off yesterday against St Mirren, we were the club accumulating most league points in the Premiership in the calendar year 2025 so far. Those ropey home league wins of early in the campaign was struggling to beat Hearts 1-0, struggling to beat Hibs 1-0, Hibs missing a penalty at Ibrox earlier in the season. They'd become like 3-0 wins. 3-0 against Celtic, 3-0 going on, 5-0 against Celtic, 3-0 against Aberdeen, 3-0 up within, by half time against both St Johnstone and Ross County. He had beaten Ross County 6-0 at Hampden with a completely different team. Rabbi Matondo, Tom Lawrence, who one eventually gets loaned out. The other one's been on his way and permanently injured. No, these guys, he beat them 6-0 at Hampden. He's beat Kilmarnock 6-0 at Ibrox. That's him beating Ross County 4-0 again. It's not as if we didn't have good, exciting wins every now and then. A lot of the early wins, I say, in the league were pretty boring, but it looked like we'd totally stepped it up. Getting into this half of the season, and if it is a rebuild season, and by God, it absolutely has to be. We've had no money or hints of any until the rumours on Wednesday. I mean, this squad has been a major transition since we failed to beat Malmo in the 2021-2022 Champions League qualifiers. Then you're going to have bad form in one portion of your season. You can't expect to perform brilliantly home and away in the league, in the domestic cup competitions and in Europe. Sustain any kind of challenge if you're going through the downsizing, the streamlining that we clearly are in an effort to make the club sellable. It's all players going out, it's all wages coming off the wage bill. There's nobody coming in to replace them. But you've got to at the same time have a base to build on, and to me it looked like, well, the home form, the home domestic form, and the away European form are two places that we can bank on Rangers. So even the defeat under Queen's Park, you're thinking, well, at one point in a rebuild, a team's going to get cocky, a team's going to get a bit slack, and yeah, we did have it was absolutely catastrophic. I mean, it was a humiliating, totally historically humiliating result, a total non-performance. But even then, that was a post-match reaction where I couldn't try and have a joke and a laugh with anybody. I wasn't bothered about Celtic fans. It was just total devastation. But even a hardened kind of loyalist who's seen it all before and knows how to absorb it. Well, no Rangers fan has ever seen a result like that before. But we did have all that possession, strictly speaking, and all the shots on goal, the 28 or 30 shots on goal that the manager was clinging on to as a stat afterwards. You could say it was a freakish result, even though we saw it coming in the way the game was breaking down on the day. But I thought it's going to be one of the wake-up call moments. And even we played poorly at Tynecastle last Sunday in the kind of follow-up game, the next game, you thought, well, they should be a bit ashamed. They should be a bit shell-shocked, the players. So if they got out and destroyed Hearts, you're thinking, well, where was any of that last week against Queen's Park when you could have saved us an all-time humiliation? So it was almost like it was an offering of, an apology almost of a performance last week against Hearts. But they got to 3 points, and maybe this is what's happening. We're stopping with the home league wins, the home domestic stuff's been fantastic. Up until that Queen's Park game, maybe we're just swapping it around. That's 2 in a row now. We won at Tannadice 3-1, now we're winning at Tynecastle 3-1. Maybe it's a wee change of tune towards the end of the season. But then you get yesterday. And that's when Clement, they did another week off. A week off after the Union St Gilloise game. We beat Union St Gilloise 2-1 and we finished 8th. And Clement's up there in the TNT gantry, giving it, I'm not going to let them have a week off. I'm going to get them in, get them coached. And I think, he's so determined. I thought it was a bit plastic at the time. And it turns out he's made them worse. He's getting a whole week with them for the first time in 4 or 5 months. It's been constant midweek, weekend, and he's saying, we don't get a chance to coach the guys. We don't get a chance to really, you don't get the time to really, kind of basically impart your tactical ideas on them. Well, he's had like 3 of them in a row, and we've been worse in the next game every single time. Now, I don't know if that's a change in the physical aspect of the game, because they're used to playing, so used to playing twice a week that having a whole week off is just letting the kind of overall, the compounded, the augmented tiredness, exhaustion of playing so many 3 weeks, 3 games a week over the course of the season. It's suddenly that lets the tiredness kick in. But no, I just feel as if he's getting them on the training field, and also after a result against Queen's Park, and then a kind of non-performance against Hearts at Tynecastle, and they're getting worse than that. No, progressively worse, so much worse. Yesterday began with kind of comic capers from the goalkeeper, and then it just went downhill. It didn't improve at all. Stephen Robinson schooled Pedro Caixinha, another PC, foreigner in charge of Rangers when he was Motherwell manager, Stephen Robinson, in that League Cup semi-final, just showing him the brutality and the organisation and determination of Scottish football. And now he's seemingly done the same to this PC, this Philippe Clement. But our players were beaten before they took the pitch yesterday. Even the Union Bears stopped singing. That's worse than a walkout. That's worse than the walkout they had in the St Johnstone game, and it might be the most kind of condemnatory single fan reaction all season. The 2 goals that we conceded yesterday were the definition of taking candy from a baby, and Nsiala, Clinton Nsiala, seemed to be that baby, and he is in terms of his age, in terms of he's only had a month of playing for the Rangers first team, but he was seriously let down by his elders. Both goals could have been fouls. A kind of nudge in the back from Olasanya for the second one that knocks over Nsiala. And the first one, I still have seen the replay so many times now on the television, and it looks, at one point, I think he's clipped his own feet in Ciala, that's while he's fallen over. And other times you're looking at it and you're thinking, no, that guy, he must have caught him. A bit like Dessers and Lager Bielka, that goal we had disallowed when Michael Beale was Rangers manager. Excuse me, but nobody's getting upset with that, because it was just a game that Rangers deserved to lose, and it just summed up the way we were getting bullied all over the park by St Mirren. There was like a long ball The first goal, 51 minutes, and they made a terrible first half. And again, the manager has been unable to do anything to change it at half time. And we come out and we're worse. And we sent there's a long ball from the St Mirren goalkeeper, and it's a flick on. And Inciala, okay, he's totally exposed and he falls on his arse or whatever. But the ball, it's Tav and Proper are going in to challenge the guy who flicks on to the goal scorer, or the guy who potentially knocks Inciala over, but just basically swats him out the way before putting it in the back of the net. They don't do anything. There's two of them going up there to try and win that, to challenge that guy, and they can take nothing off the ball. The second one, it's just knocked forward from midfield. Midfield can't do anything. Diamondi and Raskin were negligent yesterday. They were absolutely horrendous. Guys who have been phenomenal at points this season, especially in Europe, not against Celtic as well. And they've just done nothing to be able to stop a St Mirren player just first time, and it just hooking the ball. I think it took a bounce, and Ciala's like, I've got this under control, and Olasanya, who's just come on, just gives him a slight nudge in the back, and he just collapses like a deck of cards, and he puts it away. Button doesn't even move for it, and usually I don't see the point of leaving a ground early. This is what's been happening this season. I stick up for us. I stick up for us. I stick up for Rangers. I explain to people that you poor buggers. Sorry, thanks folks for listening to this. By way of explaining myself why we should stick by the team, the club, and then I see exactly. People are saying they're gaslighting us. They're taking the piss out. This is a rip on. I think it's not. No way. It's not a transactional thing. It's supporting your club. And then a game like yesterday, I see exactly why people are saying we're totally pissed. I get everything the knee-jerkers, the knee-jerk element in our support are talking about. I mean, the move to Hampden, I was like, it's not really that much of an inconvenience. It's a slight inconvenience, but we know how to get to Hampden because we're there so often. As a result of this manager, 3 successive domestic cup finals he's got us to. No one's done that for Rangers since Walter Smith. So it's definitely an achievement there. So we're going to Hampden. Let's make the best of it. It'll be fun. It'll be a nice wee change, and it's desperate. It's awful. It's just we shouldn't be here. It's the National Stadium. It's usually quite exciting when you go to National Stadium. It's like no, it's a league game against Motherwell. We shouldn't be here. We should be at Ibrox. And then there's the game against Dynamo Kiev. I mean, Dynamo Kiev, we both won the Cup Winners' Cup. We played in 5 Cup Winners' Cup finals between us. I was in Dynamo Kiev, and you're thinking, yeah, this is a major clash between probably the 2 clubs in Europe who most not deserve, but it's most surprising. The 2 clubs, if there was any kind of order going on of the clubs that should get to the Champions League final, maybe not to win it. Atletico Madrid are the only club to have played in more than 2 Champions League or European Cup finals and not have won the thing, so they're probably next in line to win the thing. If football was anything to do with deserve. And funnily enough, it's a quote by their manager. Anyway, he said, no, nobody deserves to win the league, you just win it or you don't. It's just a great manager. But it's an epic European clash, and it's going to be at a national stadium. It's going to be at Hampden. Rangers against Dynamo Kiev at Hampden. Maybe Anderlecht, they've played 7 European finals. Maybe they're the next in line to get to the European Cup / Champions League final. But this is going to be what a moment of intensity. Rangers against Dynamo Kiev. It's all square from the first leg. It's going to be a sensational evening. Rangers playing a home European game at somewhere other than Ibrox. It's going to be memorable. It's going to be historic. It was flat as a pancake. It wasn't even anywhere near full. The stadium, the atmosphere was terrible. Only the Union Bears making any noise, and Rangers were flat as a pancake, and we got 2-0. I know there was a sending off and all that, but it was just awful. And on and on downwards, it has gone. Every time I think there's something I can hang on to and say, I bet Clement does this, but we can't sack him just now. Clement does that. I don't ever want to hound anyone out the door too early. We need stability more than anything else right now. This point in our history, so I don't have a problem with espousing loyalty and patience. It's what we need. And watching Rangers in itself, and the people that you meet while you're watching Rangers is more, or it should be more than the match itself. But when I'm reduced to shouting, it's not a transactional thing, and then you see Rangers produce a performance which has you above all else so bored out your skull that people aren't leaving because they're raging, because they're angry, but because they want to get their pulse working again, to check if they have the ability to feel anything physically or spiritually. That was one of the most abject performances I've ever seen from a Rangers team yesterday. This was, I'm listening to people exaggerating about how bad Rangers are. Well, we all have forever, but especially this season. But that yesterday was a moment where you just thought, I want my money back. It is transactional. There comes a point where they'll just take the piss at me. I suddenly stand, I'm the person who's like, what else do you want to do except go and watch Rangers at Ibrox? No, come on. Even if it's a bad performance, at least you're watching the Teddy Bears. At least you're filling up Ibrox and letting any prospective purchaser of our club see what they'll be getting for their money. We're making ourselves look like a viable option for a massive investor that's going to get us straight back onto an even keel with Celtic. And by 50 minutes into that game yesterday, I'm just thinking, I want my money back. I'm being totally conned. These are gaslighting us. Get rid of them all, sack everybody, burn the place down. This is shite beyond a belief. I hate people talking about the gaslighting and they're taking the piss out of us. They're throwing their money back in my face. That's ridiculous. That's an OTT reaction. Yesterday I was sitting there thinking, they're spitting in my face. They're actually spitting in my face with this performance. It's terrible. My clap is no longer happy, and Philippe Clement is no longer Rangers manager. Who we going to get in to replace him, I do not know long term, because the club is getting, there is this rumour that's getting more and more credibility all the time. The idea that there's going to be a takeover of the club. The directors, as are just now, most of them are going to go, and it'll be completely new regime at Ibrox, so they will have their own ideas and maybe have their own people. But I don't even know if the sporting director is going to get picked by Patrick Stewart. Is Patrick Stewart the inside man for this 49ers Enterprises, or is 49ers Enterprises even the conglomerates, the corporation that we think it is? I don't know. Part of me, I think a lot of us that we kind of idea that Issam Sharai, when he arrived basically for the Union St Gilloise game just a couple of weeks ago, and so he arrives for a game against Belgians. Maybe he's been an assistant manager at a few different clubs. Maybe he could be a caretaker manager. I don't think he's going to end up being the manager. He's been assistant manager at Leuven, St Truiden, somebody else in Belgium that you've heard of, but you know them as a kind of actual Beerschot as well, because that's the thing. He's born in Antwerp. He's a Moroccan international, and he's coached the Moroccan under-23s. I think he was caretaker manager of a Saudi team at one point as well, but he's never had a first-team management job, and it just seems as if he'll know Philippe Clement, and he's come over as his mate, really, so he's going to leave with him as well, because I'm now just talking about caretaker managers. I've no idea who our next manager is going to be, because I don't even know who our next chairman, maybe even CEO, sporting director, I don't know who they're going to be. Everything's up in the air just now until this new regime change, that this takeover is confirmed or denied. But in terms of caretaker manager, I would imagine Sharai is just going to go away with Philippe Clement and Stefan van der Heyden. I don't know, but Stephen Thompson has just come back into the academy, and people are always keen for Kevin Thompson. Stephen Thompson is another ex-Ranger, and he'll know about us as well, because he's on Sports Scene all the time, laughing his head off every time St Mirren beat us. So he's, we need some of Tomo's. He used to come on as a substitute, and he would just go, come on. We always go like that. We said, come on. And he would usually score. The result would be getting beat 2-0. Stephen Thompson would come on, and we'd get beat 2-1. That was always the thing that happened with Stevie Thompson. But sitting just along from Stephen Thompson on the couch on Sports Scene is the gorgeous, the frankly lovely Neil McCann. I love Neil. It's not just because he scored probably my favourite league goal of all time. When he rounded the Celtic, and you're thinking, that ball's getting in, and we've won 3-0, and we've won the league at Parkhead, 2nd of May 1999. It's not just that, it's because he's just a dude. He's football mental, obviously. He's sometimes listening to Neil McCann on Sports Scene, that you're like, all right, I'm going to pause that. I'm going to write down that bit, then I'll rewind it and keep the bits that I missed. I'll go back. He's giving you a tactical master plan. He's so into it. It's overkill sometimes from Neil McCann, but he's a great guy. He's an angry wee man as well. He's a hard case. He would have no problem taking over the dressing room. But he's somebody that Rangers fans have always liked to quote as being somebody we should get in. Knows as temporary manager, as caretaker manager. The same thing with KT. He's an absolute. I mean, it's just talking about. Stephen Thomas might used to have given it, right, we're going to do this. Be the arm signal, right, lads. It's just whereas Kevin Thomas would just do it. He would go in there leg-wise and just nail folk left, right and centre. We all loved Kevin Thompson. There's nothing original in me saying that. An absolute legend. Again, another guy who would have no problems going in and just leathering a few folk in that dressing room and letting them know what it is to be a Rangers player. So I get them in more as kind of just a punishment for the current team rather than actual caretaker manager. Steven Gerrard, has he got anything else to do since he was sacked by Al Ittifaq? It's just a placeholder just now, isn't it? It's just, and I think we haven't managed to get a manager for an entire season since Steven Gerrard left. We haven't managed to get a manager for an entire season yet. We failed at that with Gio. We failed at that with Michael Beale. We failed at it now with Philippe Clement. But I think we're going to see it as a kind of slight improvement if we at least have a manager who starts at the start of a season and his first, look, the last guy to do that, his first game in charge of Rangers will be the first pre-season friendly. He comes in the summer in a kind of organised way. He's got a whole season in front of him. Like we brought in Michael Beale at the tail end of one season. We brought in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, November. We brought in Gio in November as well in a season. And then it's just, at least we could have a fresh start with the players and all that. They get a pre-season under this one manager. That somehow feels kind of more organised slightly. So I think the Rangers support are determined that we don't get a full-time manager in. Right, what about James Tavernier? What about Tav? As caretaker manager just now, just put his money where his mouth is. He certainly wasn't using his mouth yesterday. Another one, when I'm reduced to actually slagging Tav or saying, I think it's a lot of nonsense the way he's treated generally. I don't think he is part of the problem, but I suppose everybody's a part of the problem when things are as bad as they were yesterday and as bad as they have been in many aspects this season. But maybe Tav should go in there as caretaker manager to the end of the season, earn his testimonial one last way. But yeah, I'm laughing, but I'm crying inside. It's very sad. Philippe Clement, he won us the League Cup, so that's us the 3 domestic trophies. We've won all 3 the major domestic trophies since we come back into the top tier of Scottish football, but we've won them under 3 different managers. Steven Gerrard winning the league, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst winning the Scottish Cup, and Philippe Clement winning the League Cup. And he should have won the League Cup again this season. It's not just a kind of hard luck story. Well, it is a hard luck story, but the SFA have come out and admitted the referees made a massive mistake. No guarantee would have scored the penalty that we should have got from that non-decision. The decision that they didn't give us, that the penalty we should have been awarded in the first half of extra time against Celtic in that League Cup final. We really went toe-to-toe with them, and it gave Celtic a 3-0 caning in the 2nd of January as well. I feel as if it's hard luck in many ways for Philippe Clement, but it's just got to that point. It's got to that point where it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Clement was dealt an incredibly tough hand, but it was going backwards. Clearly became beyond doubt yesterday. It was confirmed yesterday. It's only going to get toxic from now on. It's been pretty toxic as it is, but there was, I think, even the takeover talk that emerged on Wednesday really went for it on Thursday into Friday. I think that gave the fans a bit of a lift. Nice sunny day, 3:00 kickoff. I keep meaning to look at what the crowd was officially yesterday, but it seemed to be well over 40,000. So we're a fantastic support. I know you get picky with folk with what they're saying about the manager and that, but we are really a fantastic support. We do deserve better, but we need the fans to be right up for it. We need to have somebody who's going to come in and do that. I think it has got to the point. I don't want to say, now that it has actually been sacked, maybe it's kind of cruel to go on about it, but it looked as if the players were having to overcompensate for stuff that the manager wasn't telling them, that he wasn't coaching into them. I think the final kind of proof that he wasn't up to it was having these 3 whole midweeks with him, no games for the last 3 midweeks, and they've got worse when they've come back from those whole weeks off. Steadily worse at a time when they really need to show some character and a bit of response. And I don't know if they've been they've had to overcompensate for a lack of coaching. You see it with their inability to deal with corners and their inability to get anything from corners until Issa Meshari arrived, and suddenly we seem to have a bit of a strategy about set pieces. But it's like the players yesterday just thought, I can't do this again. Within 2 minutes, they realised St Mirren were right up for it, and St Mirren were organised to be bruising, and they were going to have to really go for it. The thing that really gets to me, it was almost as if the players had thought yesterday, it was like Celtic dropping points had scared them, and that's massively condemnatory. I just want enough progress and then enough signs of possible progress for us to keep the same manager for an entire season for the first time since Gerrard. So I'm desperate for it to go well for the manager, but remove the prospect of a kind of 49ers evolution. And the biggest thing that's been killing us has been that lack of consistency in the manager's chair. At least he's gone beyond the actual. But the whole year 2024 we were under Philippe Clement, so that's something we can refer back to. But yeah, defeat to Aberdeen. Michael Beale had a defeat to Aberdeen, which confirmed it was gone for him. It was over. It wasn't happening at all. The players didn't know what they were doing, or the manager didn't know how to make them do what he needed them to do. It was just done. And the same things happened with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. We lost to St Johnstone at Perth. We had a midweek kind of 1-0 win over Hearts that was dragged out, a bit tight and all that, but it got them a win. And then we went to St Mirren and drew one each. St Mirren again, and it was over. It wasn't happening. The players had lost it. It was an awful performance. There'd been a lot of awful performances. It had got to that point where you could see that it was there was all you still had reservations up to that point, and this has got to the point where it's no, he has got to go. That's it. It's official. You can see that he's lost it. The players have lost it. And there's times that you can lose a match where players have just got a bit sloppy or cocky or caught out in the break, a bit unlucky. But they've had the defeat and a run of poor performances, which shows the manager has lost it. And that's when you get to that point. I think if we'd sacked him before yesterday's game, it would have been too soon. That was the moment yesterday. That was a display of the non-display. Few supports know like ourselves how to spot the moment where it's officially over, what it looks like. Suddenly we've had 2 straight domestic home defeats for the first time since I don't know when, and thank God we're so good on the road. When the only reason you can imagine that we'll get better in our remaining 11 league games of the season is that any last sniff of putting Celtic under pressure went out the window yesterday. What I'm saying is, if the only reason to believe in the players is that their innate lack of belief meant they totally underperformed in the face of any renewed belief that they could get into a title race. If hearing Celtic had lost before they took the pitch yesterday made them scared rather than buoyed, then he clearly isn't a Rangers manager. And moreover, it's in his eyes now that he knows he isn't a Rangers manager. He didn't even the blind faith of the ignorant or the innocent anymore. He just knows it's over. What I'm saying is, if the players, the only hope we had for the rest of this season was that not being in the title race was going to give the players take the pressure off them so they could perform again. And yesterday was the moment. With Celtic slipping up, they thought, oh God, we could get it down to 10 points today. There's 12 games to go. We can't be arsed. So they couldn't be arsed playing St Mirren yesterday. That in itself, that was the one thing I was kind of holding on to, and that in itself is another sign that the manager has to go. He has gone. I've spoke this week, folks. I'm so sorry. There's been so many pods. I'm always resolving to do a quick one. So there will be updates tomorrow, obviously all over, proper news sources about what's happening in terms of a caretaker manager. There will be some sort of official announcement from Rangers. Stuff will be confirmed, etc. I'll come back to you about that probably tomorrow, Monday, that is, as I'm speaking just now. I'll try and make one of these like 20 minutes or 30 minutes long. It's like every time you think Clement's going to be able to turn a corner, there's some sort of horrific defeat or horrific performance that means it's just not happening. I can't believe we're in the last 16 of European competition and we've had to sack the manager, but it's not the first time it's happened in Rangers history by any manner of means, and it is he was I think he was baiting Jose Mourinho in that press conference on Friday as well, which was a bit stupid. And also, I think with Clement just now, that's the one thing I haven't really got into detail about, is his a phenomenal away record in Europe. He starts off with the 0-0, a terrific fighting 0-0 against Sparta Prague in Prague. Amazing performance. We have the 3-2 win against Real Betis. That's something else that needs to get chalked up to him. Our first ever competitive win against Spanish opposition in Spain in European competition. An amazing night. This is why you stick by the guy for so long. We draw 1 each with Dynamo Kiev, away from home. It's in Poland, it's in Lublin, but it's a good away draw with a major name in European football. We did 2 each, fighting 2 each, exciting match with Benfica in the Stadium of Light, one of the great arenas of European football. Phenomenal result, a phenomenal performance. We've beaten Malmo. The Swedish champions, on their own patch. Swedish champions and also Swedish champions elect. They're going for 2 in a row. On the cusp of 2 in a row. First ever win against Swedish opposition in a single match. We'd never beaten a Swedish team even over 90 minutes, never mind putting them out of a European tie. First, that's a major plus point for Philippe Clement. Drawn with Olympiacos and Piraeus when they're a European trophy holder. Phenomenal result, a phenomenal performance that night. Yeah, okay, we should have scored more goals, made more chances, but that's how it happens. You've got to have a surplus of positives to get a minimum positive result in that kind of situation. They win against Nice. Yeah, Nice had reserve players out and a few injuries and that, but we destroyed them. We destroyed a Ligue 1 side in their own patch. Just different level. One of the greatest performances of my life, one of the greatest nights of my life watching Rangers in Europe, again being supplied by Philippe Clement. I'll have missed something out. Haven't I? Who else did we play away from? Malmo. I was Manchester United at Old Trafford, so he finally loses his unbeaten away record. I think it's the 8th attempt as Rangers manager, and you can still say that he's unbeaten out from outside the UK as Rangers manager in European competition. But it was injury time, 2 minutes into injury time, before Manchester United beat a Rangers team that had Bailey Rice on the park. We're bringing on kids. Literal kids, we're bringing them on the park because the players are breaking down. They're going off at half time, and the fitness thing. The fitness thing is another problem that we'll never know for sure if it was Philippe Clement, if it was his fault. It was a problem we had under Michael Beale. It's a problem we've had through our whole history. So many players getting injured. The last time we played Fenerbahce in Europe, we started with 4 major players at Ibrox in that tie against them. So and that was 20 odd years ago. It's an ongoing thing. I think I was convinced that Philippe Clement had a level of football, a pace of football, top level, that he wanted to play at, and the players weren't ready to do that. They weren't, so it was constantly running them into the ground, and they were breaking because they didn't have the engine capacity for the revs he was wanting to get out of them. And I never thought so. I never really had a problem with Clement for that. It was about getting the players in and getting the fitness coaching and what have you. Everything was still up in the air. Everything was getting rebuilt at Ibrox behind the scenes, but no. It didn't work out, but he had a phenomenal record in Europe, and I thank him for that, and I certainly thank him for winning the League Cup as well to complete the set. Since we've come back into the top flight, that was something that had to be done before we can start doing it multiple times. So that was massive, and he was very unlucky not to become the first Rangers manager to retain a trophy since Walter Smith. So goodbye to Philippe Clement. You go with our best wishes, big man. I know there'll be I've already seen a lot of kind of good riddance, etc., and a lot worse comments coming from Rangers supporters. That's churlish. It was him or Kevin Muscat. I think a lot of people have just been bitter since the moment it wasn't Kevin Muscat for some reason. But I think like Van Bronckhorst, like Michael Beale, it's very easy to be kind of smart after the fact. He was never the man for the job. The fact that he hasn't won enough, he hasn't won the league, etc., proves he wasn't the man for the job. But I think they were all good choices. At the time, and they all did enough within certainly the early days, because it has to be early days because they're barely getting more than a year, to prove why they were picked. They certainly showed. I mean, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst got us to a European final and got us into the Champions League group stages for the first time since we come back into the top flight. A major thing, but like everything else at Rangers these days, there was a price to pay for that when it turned into a humiliating campaign. But this is what we do. We're getting closer to having a manager for a whole season. Even if we'd continued in the route we're on just now, trying to be self-sustaining, we're slightly on the up when it comes to managers that last the course, how long they're lasting. But everything's going to change in the summer, hopefully, under this new regime. It's just, unfortunately, Philippe Clement won't be here to see that. It was the CEO's interview on Wednesday. It was the rumours about a takeover on Thursday. It was the St Mirren preview pod on Friday. It was a post-match reaction to a terrible result and performance against St Mirren on Saturday, and now the manager's been sacked, so there has to be a pod for that. I am totally overloading you, Troops, and I'm really sorry if it's getting too much, but I would feel as if I was cheating you if I wasn't coming out and commenting this stuff. There will be a reaction tomorrow to the latest news on Philippe Clement's departure and who's going to be taking over caretaker manager, and then we'll have a preview pod ahead of the game against Kilmarnock. Maybe we should just go and just ask Derek McInnes. Derek, just take us the first half, take Kilmarnock second half. Just see who, test your managerial skills, see who you can go on best with. We always wanted to get Deeks in, so maybe this is the time to do it, but I know I'm overloading you folks. I'm going to end this one just now, and I promise the next couple of pods will be really, really short, really snappy, and hopefully some bloody good news. Thanks, guys.